Welcome to Leading Veterinary Teams, the podcast for people-first leaders in veterinary medicine who are ready to ditch the burnout script and lead with purpose. I'm Suzanne Thomas, veterinary technician, executive coach, and fellow leader in the trenches. Around here, we talk real-life leadership, boundaries, influence, team culture, and what it actually takes to build happy, high-performing hospitals. No fluff, no guilt, just the truth, some tools, and maybe a little tough love. If you're ready, let's get into it. Welcome back to Leading Veterinary Teams. Today, I'm joined with somebody who has built an incredible career at the intersection of veterinary medicine, education, and leadership development, Rick Albrecht. Rick has spent over 27 years in the veterinary field, starting as a veterinary assistant before becoming a technician, hospital manager, and eventually a clinical educator. He's taught at LaGuardia Community College for over a decade, currently serves as clinical educator at the Schwarzman Animal Medical Center in New York City, and even lectured at Rutgers University in New Jersey, helping shape the next generation of veterinary professionals and leaders. What I love most about Rick's journey is how he's woven teaching, mentorship, and leadership into everything that he does. Today, we're diving into one of the most underrated leadership skills out there, active listening, and how it shows up in real life leadership, mentorship, and team dynamics. Rick, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
For anyone who doesn't know you, can you share a little bit about your background and what drew you to the leadership development work that you do?
Sure. So I've taken a lot of twists and turns throughout my career. I started as a assistant, worked up to be a technician. I started very early. Well, not as early as some people, but in college, I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And my dog was having puppies, and I helped deliver them with talking to the vet on the phone. And my mom
Yeah.
was like, "You were really good at that. You should look and become a veterinarian." I was like, "I love animals. Sure, why not?" So I enrolled in a animal science program, and I figured that since I was going to be one day working with animals, I should probably start. So I started as a assistant, and I was the guy that was cleaning cages and walking dogs and cleaning the hospital. And then I worked in GP, I worked in shelter medicine, I worked in kind of a hybrid, then I worked in specialty medicine. And after about 10 years, I'd say I got burnt out a little bit. I was living in New York City. I was always broke because that's what veterinary technicians we have to kind of deal with. And
Living in New York City.
especially living in New York City, making $40,000 a year with student loans, and it was rough.
Yeah.
So I went to grad school. I worked during the day. I went to grad school at night, and I went for education. And I was a second grade teacher for a year, and it was rough. It was like
Yeah.
throwing up in the shower before work, kind of rough. It was super
Yeah.
stressful. So I knew that elementary education wasn't my future, but that's really kind of where I caught the education kind of bug, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
I knew that I loved teaching. I knew I loved helping people develop. So I sort of had kind of tried to go that way in my career. And I had a hospital manager at a practice. His name was Kevin. And he kind of sat me down and was like, "Rick, what do you want to do? Do you want to kind of focus on leadership development? Do you want to focus on education?" And I said education. So I kind of worked in that area, but then I got a job as a hospital manager. And I gave a talk on mentorship last week, and one of the things I talked about was when you're looking for a mentor, find someone who you want to be like. And I looked at him and his leadership style, and I was like, that's who I want to be like. So I started working on my leadership development, learning leadership skills, reading books, articles, videos, things like that. And then also in my teaching at LaGuardia, there's a class called First Year Seminar for health science students, and that's almost like a 101 for adulting. And there's a lot of kind of almost leadership skills in that, not only leadership skills, but life skills. So time management, prioritization, cultural competency, things that kind of cross the barrier between, being a responsible adult, but also being a leader.
Yeah.
And I've had people in my career who have helped me along the way, who have helped me grow, helped me find my way. And through those experiences, I realized I've had people that have been there for me and I want to be that person for other people. So that's why leadership, mentoring is something that's so important to me. I want to be that person for someone else that
Yeah.
that people have been for me.
Yeah. It's so interesting to hear your story because a lot of a lot of things that you share really resonate and are speaking to me because it's very similar to the reasons that I have leaned into leadership. I've had very similar experiences.
Mhm.
It's almost pretty scary. And I wonder if a lot of people that lean into leadership have had similar experiences too, right? It's like that one pivotal, oh my gosh, that one pivotal person
Mhm.
who has encouraged you to do the thing, or that moment with Kevin where he said like, what do you want to do, and you
Right.
really had to think like, what do I want to do? um, what's interesting is you took your childhood education experience and said, how can I take this
Yep.
and make it work in this industry that I love,
Mhm.
right? What I'd love to hear, I think mentorship and active and listening, right? I think there's so much about that that are the
Yeah.
same, like, because we need to listen in order to actually be an effective mentor,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you coach people, that especially since you just did that talk,
Mhm.
how you coach people to be better leaders through listening.
So here at AMC for our technician, we call preceptors, the trainers, we call them preceptors. We started a preceptor development program, and we have different modules that we have them take on our learning management system, and then we get together and we have conversations. And the person I was working with it on, we kind of like, all right, what skills do people need? And we kind of came up with a list, and then we looked at research and we're like, oh, okay, we're pretty much aligned on that. So recently, I started working with a smaller group. There was a department that is growing, has new leadership, and had to be restructured. And one of the things that was needed was some of the assistants were needed to train some other assistants. And the leader of the department said, hey, Rick, can you come in and work with them to make this experience the best it can be for them, for everyone involved? So I met with them initially and just to get to know them, learn a little more about them. And then I thought, where do we start? Like, what's the first module, first topic that we should go over? And what I realized was it was active listening. Because when you look at some of the other leadership skills and training skills, how to give effective feedback, how to properly debrief, conflict resolution, all these kind of things that are involved in leadership and training, when you look at the core, if you don't have good active listening skills, you're not going to be effective at that. Active listening plays a role in so many different aspects of leadership and training. So that's where I started with them. And then we kind of went on to some other things from there.
Active listening, I think, as a term, can
Mhm.
is something that we hear a lot, right? It's a word that, listening by itself, okay, we understand what listening means, but then they tack on this word active. Active listening can sometimes be misunderstood as to what it actually means.
Mhm.
How do you define it, and what does that look like in practice? So you have this training, right? What does that actually look like?
So to me, active listening, you mentioned people think like, oh, it's you just listen to someone, right? It's so much more than just listening to what a person is saying. Really good active listening, it allows you to truly understand what the person's saying and where they're coming from. It involves empathy. It involves validating people's feelings so they actually feel heard. Um, and good active listening, what you're doing with that is you're seeking what the root cause of the issue is. Because sometimes people come to you with problems and you're like, that's not really the issue here. They're saying it's this, but I know it's something else. So how do you get to that? Through active listening, through asking clarifying questions, through summarizing. It's going to help reveal that root cause of what the real issue is. It's also going to help build trust because when you're actively listening to someone, they feel truly heard. And they should leave that conversation like, you know what? I felt good about that talk. I feel like something actually is going to come from this because they heard what I said. They get it, they understand, and I trust that we're gonna make some progress on this. I also like to use active listening in more of a practical way for technicians when I get histories from clients. So a little bit how active listening works is first you ask someone like, hey, what brings you in today? You let them go. You don't, what I mean by that is you don't interrupt. You kind of, you listen to what they have to say. When you're listening, you're making sure that your body language is open and inviting. You're not, arms crossed, leaning back. You're not looking at your phone. You're not looking at your watch. You're not looking at the door. There's a lot of little body cues that people can do to demonstrate to someone that they're listening. So after they've told their story, you then ask them clarifying questions. This is what you're trying to do. You're trying to figure out why they're really here. It's also good, let's say we're getting a client history. How long has it been going on for? Are there any changes in diet? Kind of those type of things. And then once you think you have a good understanding, a really good thing to do is to summarize back to the person what you heard. So what you're telling is you're here today with Fluffy because he's been vomiting for 3 days. There's been no new foods, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And this does a couple different things. First, it demonstrates to the person that, hey, they actually were listening to me. I poured my heart out. I told him all these things and he heard me. He gets me. But it's also good for is making sure that you guys are on the same page for what the problem is. Speaking from a client perspective, I've had times where I get the history, I go through everything, and I'm like, yeah, you're here because Fluffy has been vomiting for 2 or 3 days. No, I'm here because he's limping. Oh, okay. I'm glad I said that because I would have went back to the doctor and said, you're here vomiting diarrhea. They come up with a plan. They come into the room, they talk about that. And you're like, what are you talking about? I'm not, I don't care. He vomits all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then you look stupid, like you weren't really listening. Summarizing is also good because when you're talking from a leadership perspective to an employee and you summarize what they're saying, again, they like, he did hear me. He was listening. He understands what I'm coming from. And even when I'm having little informal discussions, like when I'm doing the different kind of preceptor groups, I ask a question, I actively listen to them, and then I will come back to them and say, so what you're saying is, and like just a quick summary to make sure that I'm understanding, that also everyone else in the room is kind of understanding and getting it, and that I really did hear what they had to say.
Yeah, sometimes for me, when I am hearing somebody say something, a phrase that I'll use is, so what I hear you say
Mhm.
is, or what I'm hearing you say is, so that it's like my trigger phrase, so that that is my way of then repeating them back. Do you find in certain situations that you either have those for yourself, or those are some things that you kind of have to share with other people, those like little phrases that either for summarizing or just in general for
Mhm.
the way that you communicate, to always fall back on, whether it's the summarizing or whatever it is, right? Those little phrases that you always kind of use in different situations.
Right. I like what you said with, so what I'm hearing you say is, or so just so I can understand,
Yeah.
this is what I'm hearing. Um, Another thing, some good phrases to use are empathetic statements. So after you do kind of summarize, then it's good to use empathetic statements such as, so you know what, yeah, I would be really frustrated if that happened to me as well, or yeah, I hear where you're coming from. I don't recommend saying like, hey, I understand what you're going through. Some people might be okay with that, but some people might think he doesn't understand what I'm going through. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't know me, he doesn't know my situation, he doesn't understand. He's just saying
Yeah.
that. So just using empathetic statements showing that you kind of understand where they're coming from, but not say I understand where you're coming from.
Do you mean something like, I can see how that could be frustrating, or I
Mhm.
can see how that can be
Yep.
enter
Yep.
the emotion?
Yep.
Yeah.
Just kind of acknowledging their frustration, that they're upset, that they're scared, that whatever,
Hmm.
can go a long way. Because what you're trying to do is we're trying to build trust,
Yeah.
and acknowledging those feelings starts to make the person feel like, okay, they do know where I'm coming from, and maybe they are on my side in this.
Yeah. When teams start to feel unheard, do you start to see any early signs or patterns that show up?
So one of the things that you might start to see is people being silent. You have Sometimes you have your people who are very vocal, and they're doing it because they come from a place that they're trying to advocate for their patients, or they're trying to improve the culture, or they care, and they don't know how to make the changes. So I'm just going to share my feelings and make them known. And when those people start going quiet, then you're like, uh-oh. You might even start thinking, you know what, this person's probably looking for another job already, because when someone doesn't feel heard, eventually they just start thinking, why do I even bother? I love this place. I'm passionate. I share my feelings, and I get, yeah, 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 but nothing comes of it.
Mhm.
So, you know what? I'm tired. I'm not going to do this anymore. I give up. And that's when, yeah, when people are silent, that's kind of a good indicator that they don't feel heard.
As a leader, I think that active listening in general, as a human, I think is a skill that you kind of have to. It's a
Mhm.
muscle that you kind of have to build, right? I think that we tend to. There's some barriers that we just as humans have that kind of prevent us from truly listening. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
these are skills,
yeah,
and some people are naturally good at some of them, and some people are terrible, but it's something that you can improve upon. You can learn how to be a better leader. You can learn how to be a better active listener, a better mentor, a better provider of feedback. But you have to put in the time, you have to put in the effort, you have to have the self-awareness to realize, like, hey,
yeah,
I'm not great at this. I want to be better at it. How can I get better? And that getting better might entail reading books, watching YouTube videos, going to conferences, seeking out someone who is good at those skills, and like, hey, I want to get better at this. Can you help me? But
yeah,
until you make that realization and put in some effort, it doesn't just happen magically for someone. But
yeah.
you can get better. Everybody can get better,
I feel
including
like
me.
for
I work
yeah.
on these skills all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, right?
Yeah.
Especially as an educator. I think for me, I I don't know that I was a very good listener until I was an oncology technician. I had to be because
Mhm.
we had these patients. I mean, as an oncology technician, you are faced with very serious conversations, right? And you have to have so much empathy for owners and their situation, and you really have to listen to all of the details in what they're saying, because every last detail in their history could really make or break the treatment plan.
Mhm.
And so I really had to get good at active listening in that, and then that kinda just I'm not gonna say it carried over, but the that learning continued and carried over throughout the rest of my career in vet med.
Right.
But I think that the real active learning about active listening happened when I started in that, right?
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure I didn't care to listen to people before I started working in oncology. Um, but I think that you're right. I think that it's definitely a skill that that takes time for many people to learn. And to your point, I think being able to be vulnerable enough to admit that, like, hey, we we're not all perfect, right?
Right.
Like, I wasn't always good at it. You just said, like, you weren't
Mhm.
always good at it. It's something that we always have to just keep building and keep going. And if we screw up and we didn't listen, you know, listen, there's still days where I'm, like, off into there's a
Mhm.
squirrel, and I'm like, "Oh, what? Huh, did you say something? I'm sorry, what?" And so are there Are there certain things that you see that people do or like that happen, right? That for me it's distraction. I get distracted and I'm like, I'm sorry. You have really pretty earrings. I heard nothing. You know,
Yeah.
are there certain things that you see that people that happen that people should be aware of that is making them stop active listening?
Hmm. So, kind of to phrase it different, I think one of the biggest challenges that people have with active listening, and you kind of say
Yeah.
like just distractions is yours. An important part of active listening, and I was trying to listen to you, and I was like trying like don't do this, don't do this, but I was trying to think like, all right, what am I going to say next?
Yeah.
Because when you're thinking, what am I going to say next? Maybe I'll say this, maybe I'll say that. You kind of get off in your own little world, and instead of like an external distraction, you have this internal distraction, and then it's like,
Yeah.
oh wait, what did she just say? Oh man,
Yeah.
I was looking at her and I was nodding, but I wasn't really listening. I
I mean,
was
I do that
listening.
too.
Um,
Yeah.
I was thinking about like your oncology experience and active listening, and when people came to see you and the oncologist, I'm sure they're scared, they're
Mhm.
frightened. What does this mean for my pet? Is it going to die? How much is it going to cost? There's so many things going on in their head,
Yeah.
and if you're a good active listener, you can make that person feel so much calmer because I shared my story. They listened to everything I had to say. They let me get it out. They validated my feelings. Um, hey, you know what? I think these people are okay. I feel like I can trust them taking care of my pet. And this is caring for a pet, especially with cancer, it can be a big investment for people, can cost a lot of money. And
Yeah.
if you don't have a good feeling about your oncologist, you know what? I might go get a second opinion because I left there and I don't think that girl has listened to a word I said.
Yeah.
Is it going to be like this every time? I don't want to do this every time. Let me find someone else. So
Yeah.
being able to actively listen and making someone feel heard, making them feel that you get them, that you understand them, can really, again, it's a lot of this stuff is about building connection, building rapport, and
Mhm.
active listening can help you kind of do that.
Yeah, in that situation, it was so much about listening to what their main concern was,
Mhm.
and for some people, it was money, for some people, it was about quality of life, for some people, it was about longevity, like, everybody had a different concern, and it
Right.
was really about, yes, we needed to get the history, but we also needed in that very short period of time because it wasn't honestly, I had a very short window. I had to build trust. I had to get connection. I had to do all of that in a very short window because it wasn't about me.
Mhm.
The oncologist needed to do all of that too. And she
Right.
had a longer window to be able to do that, right? I had to get the history. Like my job was get in, get the history, get out.
Mhm.
But because I'm also the one who's treating your pet, I also need to build rapport. I also need to do all of that too
Mhm.
because I'm like step one and that person who's giving you your discharges at the end. So they're like, it's a pretty delicate dance that you have to do. So I had to do all of that in a very short period of time, figure out what your goals are. And what I learned over time and within that, actively listen to figure out what it is that your main concern is,
Right.
and then really, really, really set up expectations.
Mhm.
So I made sure to let them know exactly what to expect in not necessarily long term because you don't know,
Right.
but what to expect in today's appointment. So today you're gonna see me, we're gonna do this, you're gonna see her, we're gonna do this, then you're gonna be given your options, and then you are going to have the option to choose. It's up to you, nobody's going to force you anything, right? Um and then go from there. Like, I was very, very clear with them that it was like we were a collaborative team so that they did not feel like it was a one-sided thing. So it was very much a conversation and never I'm talking at you because I
Mhm.
think a lot of people in those situations where they're scared, if you've ever gone, I have like white coat syndrome when I go to a doctor. So I always put myself in in their shoes.
Yeah.
You hear nothing. Like you hear four words from the person who's talking to you, right? So it was like I had to be succinct, which is very hard for me. I have a lot of words all the time. So how do I had like a script. So it was like I had to take my lots of words, bring it real down, make sure that they knew exactly, but it I over time was able to get it down to where it was working, right? And they were able to build that trust. And then I was able to have like the more time at the end, right? Because at
Hmm.
the end, that's where you really built the trust.
Right.
Um, but it was a lot of like getting to know them really quickly, but really honing in on, we get the history, that's important, but also what are you actually worried about, right?
Right.
Are we worried about like, is this, cyber knife going to cost 10 grand? Yes, it is. Are we, are we worried about that the Fluffy is going to, like, our median survival times are probably less than a year, right? Like, what are we worried about?
Hmm.
And then how do I help you through that? Was really, really important, because that, as a technician, is part of my job.
Right.
And yeah, so I think that from the clinical side, there's a lot of that I love that you do that with your technicians, because
Yeah.
I do think that that's a skill that we don't get a whole lot of. And
Hmm.
on the leadership side, there's a whole ton of daily that leaders are constantly brought information at, right? Like, they have people talking to them constantly, and to have your team feel heard, it's a it's a skill to be
Hmm.
able to do that quickly, because a lot of times you have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You work with teams, right?
Hmm.
A lot of them, right? Especially where you are now. Are there different things that you have seen that are similar across the board, where listening plays a part
Yep.
in creating that strong team dynamic?
Absolutely. I've worked in places with great, strong, positive hospital cultures and where the culture really needed a lot of work. And I feel like listening and feeling heard is a thread that runs through them both. In hospitals where you have the positive culture and teams where you have the positive culture, people do feel heard. Um, Leadership might go to them and be like, hey, what do you think we should do here? They ask for their input, they value their input, they use that input to influence decision making. So the team feels like they had some input in what happened and what occurred and what improvements were made. And then I've worked in other places where it was almost like not a dictatorship, but there was a central person who all the decisions flowed through them. And yeah, maybe they asked for input, but they didn't really take into account what the other people said. They just like, yeah, I'll ask them. I'm not going to do what they said, but at least if I ask them, people might feel like some of their input was valued.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I didn't like working in an environment like that.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, uh, when you have people who are experienced, who know who know things, or maybe have been in situations prior, and it's like, hey, I recognize what's going on here. Here's what I think we need to do, and it's like, no, we don't need to do that. We're good. And like, okay, like I know how this is going to turn out, but sometimes people have to learn the hard way or learn by making mistakes. But when you have an environment where input is solicited and it is utilized, it's a much happier team. Also, when you get that input from people, it also helps with creating accountability. So let's say you're having a conversation with someone and you're actively listening to them, and then you might say like, so what do you think we should do about this? Or how would you solve this problem? And they kind of go through their scenarios or their solutions. And at the end, you can come up with a like, all right, here's what I think we're going to do. This is your idea. Is this something you can follow through on? Yeah, I think I can do it. Now, if they can't do it or they don't follow through on it, it's a situation where like, hey, this was your idea. Like you came up with a solution. You said you could do it. You said that you could handle it. And now you're telling me you can't. And that should have more meaning and more value than if you just said, hey, you do this, you do that, and the people have no input, what you just told that person to do, maybe they're not able to do that. And if you had solicited some feedback, some ideas from them, maybe you could have come up with a solution that would have been more successful for you and for them.
And if they're not able to do it, so if they came up with the idea and they're
Mhm.
not able to do it, I think that the next step is, to your point, asking more
Right.
questions.
So you said
And
you could do this. Why were you not able to complete it?
right,
Again,
right,
you're going to seek for understanding.
right. So why were you not able to complete it? But then there's still more space. Why were you not able to complete it? Is there something else that we could be like, there's still more space for more conversation.
Right.
Is there something else that maybe we thought this was the solution, maybe it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
Good point.
maybe there still is a solution. Maybe there's something that we learned along the way in trying to do it, that we found an alternate solution or something like that, right? Like, it opens the space for more conversation versus, I am the leader, I have made the decision, you are doing this.
Right. Yeah. And some people
And Sally's like, I don't want to do that.
and some people run their practice that way because, hey, that's the way I learned. That was the leadership style I came up in, and now I'm a leader, and that's all I know. So I'm going to run it that way. And there are much better ways to be a leader than
And
the
your
highway
younger
or highway.
people and your younger people, your not so younger people, all of your people think that your way is dumb and they don't want to do it
Right.
because they know some other way that 100% will get us there faster, but you don't want to hear about it because
Mhm.
you're like, no, that doesn't make any sense to me. So it doesn't even matter if it makes sense to me. We're not doing it because I've
Right.
made the decision. And now we have a team that is not being collaborative, and now you have dysfunction.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the skills that is really important, I think, with leadership is being open-minded. Just like you were saying, you think you might know the best way, but you might not. You might be
Yeah.
convinced, but someone else has a better way that works for everyone.
Yeah. I received a message today from somebody who was like, "I love that you're always so humble. You know what you know, and you know what you don't know." I was like, "Oh God, you know what I don't know? Plumbing. Don't ever ask me anything about plumbing. I know nothing." I can sometimes, like, I will stand and die on a couple of hills, and I'm like, "No, I know that." But
Mhm.
I mean, if I am listen, if I am proven wrong, I will be the first one to be like, "You know what?
You're right.
Fine, you're
Yeah.
right."
Yeah.
Because what's the point?
Right.
You know?
I try to be open-minded about everything.
Yeah, you
Um,
kind of have to be.
yeah, because if you have yourself closed off, you're gonna miss out on so much in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially like saying with leadership. Could be better ways.
I talk a lot about, I mentioned it already here a little bit, but I talk a lot about being curious instead of being
Mhm.
judgmental. And that sounds really good in theory, but when faced with tough conversations, it can be really hard when you haven't built up that muscle yet, right?
Yeah.
In your experience when coaching or training leaders, or even your technicians or your teams, how do you help them stay curious instead of defensive during those tough conversations?
I think it goes back to just what we were talking about. Be open-minded. Um, Talk about how I like to be open-minded. Give examples of scenarios where I was open-minded, what I learned, the benefits of being open-minded. Another thing we talk about is having kind of growth mindset. Growth mindset is something that I'm a strong believer in. If people aren't sure what growth mindset is, it is there's fixed mindset and growth mindset. Fixed mindset is I know what I know. Um, I was born not being good at math, so I'll never be good at math, or I'll never learn this. And growth mindset is I'm not good at math yet.
Hmm.
I can work on it. I can improve my skills. I am not fixed in what I know. I can always grow. So, encouraging growth mindset in people as well is important.
I'm gonna need your help with growth mindset when it comes to football because I am fixed. I can't. No, I can't learn it.
Sure, you can. What can't you learn? What are you struggling with?
Everything. We don't have to go there, but it's we'll go
What
down a rabbit hole
what are
that
you
we don't
what
have
are you
time
doing
for.
to try to improve it?
People have tried to teach me so many times, I just don't get it.
You may have to find a way to kind of relate it to something else that you do understand, and that might help you understand it also.
Yeah. I'm playing around, but I do think that I agree. I think that there's sometimes situations, right, where we like put ourselves in a box where we're like, for me, it's football, where we like in so many other aspects of my life, I have sky is the limit. There's no limit on my learning. I will learn everything
Mhm.
but then there's other things where I'm like, nope, tried it, can't do it. Nope.
Well, it
I think
also could be,
football and poker are in that like,
do you wanna learn it? Do you care? Because
right, I think that's
there's
a
some
good
things where
point.
I'm like, "Yeah, I could learn it, but I just don't wanna learn it." So, no, I'm not
I
gonna.
think that I've tried so many times that I've given up that I
Okay,
don't care anymore.
okay,
Yeah, and that's a good point, right?
yeah,
You get to the point where maybe it's that like you get to the point where you don't care, or maybe it's just something that's not interesting enough.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's a good point.
there definitely some tech things that people are like, "You should learn all about this." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't want to." Like, it's just not
Mm,
where
that's also a
that's
good
not like
point.
my area of interest.
Mm.
And yeah, maybe I'll learn about it, but then I won't utilize it and I'll just forget about it. So I'm gonna focus on what I want to learn about, what I think would be more beneficial to.
Thank you for bringing it back to veterinary medicine. That is a very good point. I oversee veterinary hospitals that are general practice hospitals. I was an oncology technician. Oncology will forever be in my blood. You talk to me oncology, it's like talk to me oncology, right? And I love it. Never in my wildest dreams thought that I would love oncology, but I do. And I mean, you can talk to me oncology all day long, but you start talking about dentals, and I'm like,
I love dental.
I got nothing.
I
I
love
just
dentistry.
I walked in to a clinic, and they were doing a dental, and I was like, "Hey, you guys need help with anesthesia?" And they were like, "Yeah, jump in." And I was like, "Great, I will help you with the anesthesia. Do not ask me to scale. Do not ask me to chart. Do not ask me to do any of that. I don't know any of it. I got nothing, but I can run the anesthesia for you. Don't ask me to do none of that.
Scaling is so satisfying though.
I've
I'm
never
I'm
done
a
it.
I'm a picker and a popper.
I've
I
never done it. That's the
Oh, it's
problem. Is that I like
so satisfying.
in school, but then when I came out of school, I went right into oncology. I mean, I did my externships and then I went right into oncology. I never
Mhm.
worked in GP
Okay.
except for in management. So I have polished two sets of teeth in my entire career.
Okay.
So not the right person for it, right? So it's like what I think we were saying before, you know what you know, right? And
Mhm.
there's just never been any desire to do that.
Yeah. I
So
get it.
I mean,
Same
if I
thing.
had to, I would 100%. But I just not my thing,
Okay.
you know?
Not everything is everyone's thing, and that's
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have people that love that.
Yeah.
That's your thing.
Yep.
And I will go to them and ask them I don't know anything about it. I'll go to them.
And those same
You can
people
come to me
might
for oncology.
those same people might be like, "Run a hospital? Ugh, gross. I don't wanna do that." And you're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I love that.
I know. Come to
That's
me.
your thing. That's not their thing, it's your thing. So
Right.
you do
I love it.
you, I'll do me, and we'll just cover all the bases here."
And we'll do it together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the point. I love it.
Also with
So
growth
I don't know that we like fully can fit. We went down a rabbit hole. I'm
it's okay.
sorry. Go ahead.
Also with growth mindset, it's kinda weird, like, I know a lot of people in vet med have a lot of tattoos. I have 2 that I got when I was younger, and I almost feel like I wanna get "yet" tattooed on me because
Okay.
in growth just to with growth mindset, like, I have kids, and
Yeah.
we're both my wife and I are trying to instill that growth mindset in our kids,
I love
and
that.
if they're, like, struggling with something, we don't let them get away with, "I'm not good at that." Like,
Mhm. Or I
"You're not
can't.
good at it." They're like, "Yet." I'm like, "Yes, yet." I
Mm,
have that growth mindset, so I just want, like, a yet, maybe in, like, a graffiti kinda thing on my forearm.
I love that.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah,
I like it.
what the heck?
I like it.
Your
I
birthday
mean, I
present.
have 21 tattoos, so you're speaking my language here. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that being open to new ideas
Mhm.
is really, really important.
Yeah.
For me, I have kind of learned to almost understand my triggers, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So I say be curious, not judgmental, but I don't, that doesn't mean that internally there isn't a judgmental thought that
Oh
comes to
yeah,
my mind. I
it's,
am
it's,
human,
it's
right?
human. Yeah.
And right. And so I think that when people hear that and then they have a judgmental thought, they like beat themselves up about it. And they're like, oh my God, I'm being judgmental. There must be something wrong with, no, there's nothing wrong with you.
No,
You're human.
right.
And so it's just that I have the thought, and then the thought right after it is recognizing that I had that thought, and then that's the trigger to be curious. That's the trigger to ask the questions. It's
Hmm.
the I'm being judgmental. Hold on. This is a judgmental thought. Now I need to ask it. Now I need to ask more questions
Right.
because that's the judgment would normally historically have stopped. I would have that would have been it. I'm judgmental. You are being whatever, you are who you are, and I'm gonna walk away. You're lazy, you're whatever, I'm gonna walk away. But now instead of she's lazy, she's whatever, I'm saying, is she lazy though?
Or she just
Right?
unmotivated.
Is she lazy? Is she unmotivated? Or did something happen to her this morning that caused her to be tired, that
Mhm.
caused her to act this way? Is this a normal behavior for her? I start going down like the question
Yep.
list, right? And then I start asking her some questions like, hey Sally, I don't know why I'm using Sally today. Hey Sally, what's going on? Like I noticed that you've been coming in late this week. That's not normal for you. Is there something going on at home
Yep.
that whatever, right? Like that I need to know about because it seems to be affecting work. You don't have to get personal. I don't need to know the personal stuff, but like, is there something going on, right? Like, in going down that route instead of just assuming that like Sally's a
Right.
whatever.
It's called assuming positive intent.
There you go.
Just
Right?
you can't assume that people, like you said, they make those judgments, they have those thoughts, and people when they feel like they've been wronged, they jump to this person is trying to ruin my life, they're trying to screw me over, they're this, they're that, and in reality, like you were saying, maybe they're just having a bad day.
Yeah.
Maybe they got bad news right before you talk to them. I try to do this in traffic because I
Mm.
can get a little bit definitely judgmental when I'm in traffic. And there are times when like someone's, let's say, trying to merge on the highway, and I'm like they don't know how to merge. What's wrong with them? Don't they know how to drive? And it's like maybe this is their first day. They're just
Mhm.
maybe this is the first time they've ever merged onto a highway. And then I start to think, well, I'm not perfect. Maybe they didn't, I've changed lanes and didn't see the person there. I'm like, oh, sorry. Maybe
Yeah.
that's what this other person did. They weren't trying to cut me off because they don't care about my feelings or whatever. So I try to like dial it back to like, okay, they're not trying to wrong you. They don't care about your safety. Maybe they just didn't see you, or maybe they didn't think
Until
about
they
that.
honk their horn.
Yeah. And this happens all the time in the real world. So I try to tell
Yeah.
people like, hey, don't assume that someone is trying to ruin your day.
Yeah.
When in reality, what they're trying to do is they're just trying to get through their own day. They're
Mhm.
trying to get through, do their treatments, take care of their patients, and maybe they didn't realize, hey, you were waiting behind them, like you were waiting for the QBX machine, and they jumped in front of you, and you thought you're like, oh, they think they're more important than me, like, oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. But if people
Right.
they assume the negative, and then it starts arguments, and
Yeah.
it's not worth it. Just
Yeah, I have that conversation more often than I'd like to, but it's the like, did you wake up this morning thinking about how much you would like to ruin
yeah,
Rick's day today? No, no,
no,
you did not. Right. And so what makes you think that I did?
right, yeah,
It's just not the way that we think. I am not thinking about you any more than you are thinking about me.
yep,
And it's it's just the reality of things. And what I was laughing when you were talking about the traffic because this morning we were running late for drop off with my kids. We got stuck behind one of those lawn trucks
mhm,
and my my daughter started yelling at the truck saying that he was going too slow and I was like, "Oh god, I did that."
yeah, and it,
I was like, "Oh no. Oh no, I've taught them. Oh no,
yeah,
I
yep.
need to stop yelling at the trucks."
I've had moments like that where like, oh God, they do listen and they are picking up on what I'm doing. Oh God, I'm not going to ruin them.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, I that's why I was laughing because I was like, "Oh, this happened this morning.
yeah.
No." Ah, So you mentioned before that you did a presentation on mentorship,
Yeah.
and you also mentioned that you have had people in your life that have pushed you towards the career that you're in now.
Hmm.
How do you believe that active listening has helped you? And really, do you think that it's played a role in building meaningful mentorship relationships?
Absolutely. I lectured last week. AMC had a technician-led conference organized by techs. All of our speakers were techs except Temple Grandin talked, which was really, really cool. I had never
I'm,
seen
like,
her
really
before,
jealous that
and
I
I
was not there.
I she went after me, so I like to say, like, yeah, I opened for Temple Grandin
You sure
last
did,
week.
that's
Um,
amazing.
but when people think mentorship, some people might think, "Oh, I'm gonna get a mentor. They're gonna tell me what to do. They're gonna fix my life, and I'm good." But mentorship is so much more than that. Mentorship is a two-way street. And what I mean by that is when you have a mentor, they should be a person that you can go to and share your feelings, share your concerns. And a mentor has to actively listen. It's not just, again, it's not just, oh, I'm going to be a mentor. I'm going to tell this person what to do and it's going to be great. No, they're going to come to you with problems and you have to listen to those problems. You have to almost internalize, you have to empathize, and you have to kind of help come up with solutions and suggestions that the person can then implement. But if you're not a good active listener, you're not going to figure out what are they trying to tell you. They're telling you that they're burnout and I hate my practice and I want to do something different. I want to leave vet med. Well, why are they burnout? Is it the way they're being utilized? Are they being overutilized? Are they speaking up for themselves? Do they know how to advocate for themselves? If you're not listening to them and you're not getting to what the problem really is, you can't help them
Yeah.
because you don't even know what you're helping them with. You're making recommendations to a problem that they're not really even having. They're telling you they're having it, but you're like, that's not the real problem. So you have to know what the real problem is, and you figure that out by actively listening to them.
Yeah. What advice would you give somebody who wants to become a better mentor or leader through listening or just in general?
Hmm. So how do you become a better mentor through active listening or
Yeah.
something like that?
Yeah.
I would say that, like I talked about earlier, active listening and knowing how to do it is at the core of so many different leadership skills. Unless you can actively listen to someone in an effective way, you're not going to be good at these other things. So if you're looking at, okay, I want to be a better leader, where do I start? I think starting on your active listening skills is where you should put your initial efforts because so many other things branch off of active listening.
When you were talking about trust earlier,
Mhm.
it sparked a thought, and honestly didn't have. I was like I was trying to listen to you, so I was like, I didn't want to do what you were talking about before of like
Mhm.
going into a
What am I going to ask next?
another world of like,
Yeah.
what am I going to ask next? But I was actually going to, I like started to, and then I like brought myself back to listening to you. But you were talking about trust, and in order to build trust, psychological safety is very much a part of that.
Hmm.
And when you're listening as a leader, while you're listening, you're building trust. And in that process, you're also building psychological safety. Like it's all
Yeah.
related.
Yeah. These are
And
all
so,
like interconnected.
yeah. And I'm not really asking a question in this. I'm sort of just talking. But when that breaks down, right? When you start to break down trust because you don't listen, it it also then, because they're related, it also breaks down the psychological safety,
Hmm.
and that's really hard to get back. So as a
Yeah.
leader, I guess where I'm getting at, or what I guess the question-ish is, if you've if you're coming into a situation or you're in a situation where your trust is breaking down or broken down and that psychological safety is missing or hard to get, or you have somebody who is guarded and lacks trust,
Right.
are there things that you can do as the leader to remove that guardedness and rebuild that trust so that that psychological safety can be rebuilt?
Hmm.
It's challenging,
I
right?
I feel like it depends.
Okay.
I feel like it depends upon the other person,
Okay.
because we're all individuals and we all bring our own histories and our baggage to relationships.
Mhm.
And if you have someone who thinks that psychological safety, that trust is breaking down, and in the past they've had experiences where people have been untrustworthy, or they've broken their trust, or they have issues with trusting someone, that it's possible that relationship might be irreparable. Just because it not necessarily, you could do the best things in the world and, textbook and best practices, but that person is like, no, you burned me once, I'm not going to let you do it again, and sorry. Other people might be a little bit more open to trusting again. They might be able to be a little more empathetic and put themselves in your position, and like, hey, they did this. Maybe they didn't mean to ruin that trust, but they did. But I kind of see why they did it. And maybe we can rebuild that relationship again. But yeah, I think it depends upon the person. It depends upon what happened, how grievous of an error did you make, how bad did you hurt them. It depends. And
I think
I can't think of
I
like
got
one magic, like, do this, this, and this, and
never.
you're golden. I don't know if it works like
You
that.
don't have the magic bullet? Darn.
No, I don't. It's almost like people are complicated, and
God.
there's no one answer that fits everyone.
I'm mad now. No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry.
It's okay. I think that what I'm gonna do what you just said. I think what I'm hearing from that is that it take I'm gonna be silly. It takes two to tango, right?
Yeah,
You can't build trust one-sided. You
right.
can't build psychological safety one-sided. It takes two people that are invested in
Mhm.
building trust and building that communication. And you can't just have the leader actively listening, but also the people on the team have to be invested in doing that as well.
Yeah, agreed. Because if one person has no interest in fixing the relationship, you can't make them do it. So you do the best you can, and some of them you win, some of them you lose, but you just gotta keep going on.
Hmm, hmm. Keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on.
Hmm. What is one book, rapid fire, if you had to choose one book that everyone needs to go run right now to Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, wherever they buy books, grab it right now off the shelf.
The first leadership book I ever was introduced to was called Leadership and Self-Deception, Getting Out of the Box, and it was written by the Arbinger Institute, and it's not like it's more of a story that talks about people who are trapped in self-deceptive practices, and when they're trapped in this, it really limits their ability to see the reality of the situations that they're in and the people that are around them, and it encourages people to recognize what other people need. It encourages empathy. It's about how people view themselves as, they might be like, oh, I'm a really great communicator, or I'm good at what they do. But in reality, they're not. And it talks about how sometimes people, they're keeping each other in these boxes, and they're not, like, it's a metaphorical box.
Yeah.
And it tries to help encourage people and introduce people into ways of how to get out of that box and get out of themselves, and kind of out of maybe the bad habits and the bad practices that they're doing, in order to become better leaders. I'm a big self-reflection guy. And maybe this was kind of what got me into it, but I try to be self-aware about things. I try to reflect on my practices all the time, look at how I handled the situation and what did I do well, kind of do like a self debrief. What did I do well? What could I have done better? Get feedback from people as well. So I like to do these things so I can grow as a person.
Yeah. That sounds like I have not read that book. It sounds like a book that it's surprising that I haven't read it. It sounds like a book that I would enjoy. I also am uh, somebody who is very reflective. It one of those things that I have been told time and time again. People are I'll say something and somebody will respond like, "Wow, you're really self-reflective." I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. It's exhausting."
And a lot of the things that we try to do, and we try to, like, when we're working with our preceptors, is we try to encourage these self-reflective practices, because until you realize where you need to grow and get better, how do you know where you need to grow get better?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's helped me personally with emotional intelligence too, because it's allowed me to be able to sit back and say, like, how did it's like M&M rounds, right? It's been able to like to sit back and say, like, how did I react to this in this situation? How would I have preferred to react to this? So next time, how will I react to this? Right?
Mhm.
It's like, it's just growth, right? Debriefing for yourself.
Self-debriefing, yeah.
Um, yeah, anyhow. Is there anything that we have not talked about today that is sitting on, for lack, I say this all the time and then I feel like I sound hokey, but that's sitting on your heart that you really want to share, that you feel like would, it would be a disservice if you did not share?
Hmm. Um, so one of the things sometimes leaders say is, "I don't have time for that. We have a lot to go.
Mm,
We have a lot to do. Just teach them what they need to know, get them on the floor, and get them taking care of patients."
yeah.
What people don't always realize is when they invest a little bit of time up front to set the person up for success, it can save them so much time down the road. So if I said, like, all right, invest 3 days now and it's going to save you 2 weeks later, would you do that? Like, yeah, of course I would. Okay. But sometimes people are short-sighted and they don't think about, all right, I need to properly onboard this person. I need to properly move them along slowly, if as slow as needed, so that they are comfortable doing the job, that they know what they need to know, so that later on it doesn't create a problem because, oh, I didn't know that policy, or we said we were going to talk about it at the beginning and we never did, and now it created a big issue with a patient or with a client or some type of interpersonal issue. So what I feel is, when people say I don't have time to do this at the beginning, oh, they'll figure it out eventually. Take the time early, invest in your people, do it the right way up front, and it's going to save you time later on. It might even save you an employee. And think about how tough it is to find technicians now. Practices should do whatever they need to do to retain those employees, because it's really hard to replace them. And that includes onboarding them properly, teaching them the skills properly. Sometimes maybe there's issue in the hospital and, oh, we can't bring in someone from the outside. We can't shut down the hospital for 2 hours to do a communication workshop. Like, you can't not do that. If you're having problems, you're having issues, investing that small amount of time can save you so many headaches. I remember when I was a hospital manager, all the time, knock, knock on my door, so many problems. And
Mhm.
I was basically in survival mode. And I tried to do what I could, but I didn't know what I know now. And going back, if I could say to my younger self, like, all right, if you want to be successful, you need to figure out, like, all of this, like, why is all this infighting happening? Why are people not happy? Why is this? Why is that? Get to the root cause of it and say, hey, you know what? I want to shut the hospital down for 3 hours so we can, have this type of workshop. And yeah, I know 3 hours is a lot. That's revenue that's not coming into the hospital, but this is going to make us money on the back end because we're going to retain staff. Clients are going to be better. Clients are going to be taken care of better. Patient care is going to go up. So my thing I feel strongly about is investing in your people so that you can set them up for success.
And to just build on what you just said, I think that there is a pretty easy way to build out an ROI or a return on investment in what you just said. So, and if you don't know how to do that, for anyone who's listening, partner with somebody who does.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Suzanne, just
there's
raise your hand if you're just listening.
I
Suzanne,
did. Oh, yes. Thank you. I should have said that. I raised my hand for anyone who's watching and who's listening. Thank you. I absolutely should have said that out loud. The ability to say, I'm going to shut down the hospital. Rick just said that that's going to reduce revenue. Well, there's some people in certain situations, like if you work in a corporate medicine environment, or even if you're not and you're privately owned, there are some people in that privately owned situation that might freak out about that because that's revenue lost, and revenue lost means we can't do XYZ, right? We can't pay somebody, we can't, keep our lights on. It like that might make a business person worried. However, if you can put into your spreadsheet the ROI, the return on investment of what that actually is going to increase. So Rick then just said that's going to make your clients have better service. Well, what does that look like? Right? We actually have data that shows what that looks like. That's going to make you have higher retention. Well, what does that look like? There's actual data that tells you what that looks like. So pull that data, put that into your spreadsheet, what 3 hours of that creates, right? And then show whoever is the decision maker that's telling you yes or no, can you do this, whether it's you or somebody else, put it together so they can see the numbers, and then they'll get approval. A lot of times it's really just having to put the numbers together to show. If you just say, hey, I want to do this and I think this is what it's going to do, you're going to get a no, right? In a lot of cases. But if you can say, I want to do this, I think it's going to do this, and then you can actually show the numbers that support what you think, most of the time it does support what you think. If you can show the numbers that support it, you're going to get a yes because it supports it.
Where do you think people could find numbers or studies?
So a lot of, I don't have it in front of me, and now you're putting me on the spot.
Sorry.
A lot of that data is available in the AVMA website. AHA has a lot of that data.
Yeah.
I often am pulling, not necessarily specifically communication workshops, but I am typically pulling data from JAVMA and AHA for things like tech utilization. So I talk a lot about tech utilization when I'm speaking to the people that I work with. And there's lots of stuff on the internet, guys. Like, the internet is a hot pot of information. What I would recommend you not do is go to ChatGPT and expect that it's going to give you all of the stuff that is real. So definitely verify your information on sources that are accurate. So you're going to want to look at the AVMA and the JAVMA and the white papers that are out there. VIN might have some stuff. So if you don't have access to that, ask your veterinarians. They likely do. But there's definitely information out there. And if you need some help digging in, I'm happy to help dig in. You can email me. So
Cool.
That's what I got. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I guess the last thing, unless you have anything else that you want to chat through, is how can listeners connect with you and learn more about your upcoming work and what you're doing?
I guess you can find, I'm not big on the social medias. I know you're huge on LinkedIn.
Huge.
But I don't do a lot of social media stuff, and I don't have any type of side company or anything to really promote. It's just, I love talking about such, just me. I love talking about these kind of things, and this was an opportunity to do that. And I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
but I don't have a website or anything like that.
That's okay. And if they're ever in New York City, they'll knock on your
Yeah.
door.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I will
That
link.
large, might be tough to find me, but just ask
Yeah, yeah, just ask around. They'll find you eventually. Might be there for a while. Yeah, no, I can link your LinkedIn profile. And if anybody's interested in linking up with you,
Yeah, sure.
they can find you on LinkedIn. I just said linked way too many times. They can find you on LinkedIn. Well, listen, Rick, it has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today and getting to know a little bit more about your story and what brought you into leadership. Any last words for the audience?
Invest in your team. Don't take them for granted. Utilize them. Give them opportunities.
Love
Help
it.
them
Thank
grow.
you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Leading Veterinary Teams on Air. If this episode hit home, share it with a colleague, tag us on Instagram or TikTok, or leave a review. And don't forget to subscribe. It helps more leaders like you find their way. And remember, your job is not to do it all. It's to lead in a way that lasts. I'll see you next time.